Good morning, students. This is Harshala teacher from St. Thomas Bethany Convent School, and today we are going to learn the new story of lesson number 2.4. So, basically, this is a epics are tales which were passed on from one generation to other in the form of poems. Ramayana and Mahabharata are the example of Indian epics, whereas this chapter tells us the story from a Greek epic written by Homer, a blind poet who lived around 900 BC. He wandered from one Greek city or village to another, spreading his tales to the masses. So basically, this story is told by the Greek poet Homer, and now we'll see the story. I think everybody know what is the Greek epic. Epic is a big poem like Mahabharata and Ramayana, and it is a heroic poem. Okay, then we'll see further this story. Epic are the long poems that are relate the deeds of a great national heroes or a great national war. They often tell all of a nation's early history. They may be composed and sung or recited for many years before they are actually written down. The two famous Sanskrit epics are Ramayana and Mahabharata, and the two great epics of European literature written in ancient Greek are the Iliad and Odyssey. Just as an Indian literature, we go back to stories from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. So, in literature of Western countries, they go back to the Iliad and the Odyssey. Just as children all over the India knows the names of stories of Ram and Sita, Yudhishthir, Arjun, Draupadi. So the children in Western countries know the names of Hector, Odysseus, Achilles, and Helen of Troy. Okay, the most beautiful woman in the world, because of whom the Greek and the Trojan fought for 10 years. Okay, so I think you have understood that, like the Mahabharata and Ramayana, it is a great epic for India, and Indian children knows the name of the heroes of Arjun, Yudhishthir, and so on, Ram and Sita. Like that only, in the Western countries, as far the Greek will say, they knows the name of Odysseus, Achilles, Hector, Helen of Troy, like this, and because of the Helen, this story happened. Okay, so now we'll see further. Nobody knows for the certain who the author of this early epic is. It is thought that they started and developed with the nation itself and were handed down from singer to singer till perhaps one great poet gave them their final form. So it is believed that the Iliad and the Odyssey were composed and recited by a blind poet named Homer, who lived about 900 BCE and who wandered from one Greek city or village to another, singing his poem to all who would receive him in their homes and give him hospitality. This wandering singer has been honored through the ages, not only in Greece but in all Europe, and as the father of European poetry. So, further, this Homer is wandering from one city to another, one village to another, and he is not only famous in the Greece but it is also famous in all over the Europe, and so that he became the father of European poetry. The Iliad is the story of Ilium or Troy, a rich trading city in Asia Minor near a narrow sea that leads from the Aegean to a Black Sea. So, this Iliad is basically, or the Ilium or Troy, it is a rich trading city in Asia Minor, and it is near a narrow sea that leads from the Aegean to the Black Sea. So it was well situated both for commerce and agriculture. In front of the city was the sea, over which sailed the ships of Troy, carrying goods and grains. So at the back rose the high peak of Mountain Ida, from which flowed many rivers and streams. The valley among the hills were well watched and fertile, with corn growing in fertile fields and cattle feeding on the rich grass of the meadows, while sheep fed on the slope of the hills. So, this is how the city is situated. It has a nice natural surrounding. It has a many hills, streams, rivers, valleys, and among the hills were well watered and fertile land, with the corn growing in that fertile fields. Cattle is feeding in the rich grass of the meadows, and even the ships are there, and that ships are on the slopes of the hill. So this is how this city is very rich and prosperous. Around their city, the Trojan had built a strong wall so that no enemy should attack them from the sea. So, at the and the wall was so broad that people could stand and sit and walk on it. The great gate stood open, and people could go to the seashore outside and come in as they pleased. But in the time of a war, the gates would be closed, and then the city was like a strong fortress, quite safe from all attack, protected by the walls surrounding it as well as by the hills behind. So, at the one hand, the hills are there, and where the seashore is there, at that seashore, they have built one wall, and it is a very great wall. It is a big wall, one can sit and stand on it. And after that, there is one gate also, and on from that gate anybody can go out and they can enjoy the seashore and after that come back. But when the war time is there, that time the gate are closed, and when it is there is a favorable time, the gates are always open so that people can enjoy the seashore, see the outside scenes and come again as when they want to come. Okay, but it is a great protection, and it is a great protected wall surrounding it as well as by the hills behind. Then, thus, the Troy was a strong city and strongly protected by its wall and strongly defended by its brave soldiers. So, not only it is protected by the walls and the surrounding, but the soldiers are also very brave. But all the kings and heroes of Greece had declared wars against the Trojan. Then, after that, all the kings and the heroes of Greece declared a war against the Trojan because of Paris, a prince of the kings of Troy, had persuaded Helen, wife of Greek king Menelaus, to elope with him. So, why they have declared war against the Trojan? Because the Paris from the Troy, who is the prince of a Troy, persuaded the Helen. She is a wife of a Greek king Menelaus, and she eloped with him. He had brought her to Troy. The Greek wanted to take revenge on Troy for the wrong done to Menelaus, and all the king of Greece wanted to take revenge because this prince of Troy, have done the wrong with the Menelaus. They sailed to Troy and laid siege to the city. The Trojans too fought hard, and the siege continued for 10 long years. And because of that, these Greek kings have sailed their boats towards the Troy and sieged the Troy city. And the Trojan also fought with the 10 long years. The fighting went on daily, but the siege did not end. On the one hand, the Greeks could not take the city, and the other hand, the Trojan could not force them to sail away. So every day the Trojan came out of their gates and the Greek came out of their tents and ships, and fighting went on. So every day it is happened. Every day nobody is defeated by anyone. So every day Greek come out from their tents and their ships, and even the Trojan come out with their gates, and every day the fighting is went on. Sometimes there were agreed battles between the two armies. Sometimes there were single fight between the two great heroes. Sometimes the Trojan had the better of it, and sometimes the Greek. But still the fighting went on. So sometimes what happened? Trojans came out with their Greek and gate, and the Greek came out their tents, and every day the fighting is going on. And sometimes there were a great battle between the two armies, and sometimes there were a single fights. Means the two heroes are fighting with each other. Otherwise, sometimes the Trojan had done the better, and sometimes the Greek people have done the better. So nobody is achieved the success on anyone. So sometimes Trojan better, sometimes Greek better. So in this way, nobody can defeated by anyone, and so that the fighting it still went on. Great heroes on the both sides were killed in the curse of the war. And so many great heroes are killed by the curse of the war. After leading the defense of his city for 9 years, the brave Hector was at last killed by the Achilles, whom none could resist. And after the 9 years defense of the city, the Hector from the Troy was killed by the Achilles. And but the Achilles himself also was killed later on by the poisonous arrow that enter in his head, and the only part of his body where he could be wounded. So still later Paris himself was killed, and also a poisonous arrow. Because of the Paris all this thing happened. He have eloped with the Helen, the wife of Menelaus, and because of him, all this war has happened, so that the Paris also killed himself with the poisonous arrow. The Trojans were tired of being shut up in their cities, and Greeks were longing to see their homes again. But still the fighting went on. So all are fed up with the fighting, even the Trojans and the Greek, because Trojans are locked in the city, and the the Greek are longing to go their homes. But then also the fighting it still went on. So basically, if we'll summarize this story, we can see that history makes the importance of people, their culture, and their way of living. Many epic stories have been told since centuries. We already know about the great Indian epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata. So there is a one such a epic story of a southern Europe told in Greece and some parts of Turkey, called The Fall of Troy. The epic was recited by a Greek poet called Homer, and Homer called this epic Iliad. Iliad means the portrays the battle between the ancient kingdom of Troy, present that is Turkey, and the Sparta that is a Greece. While visiting the Spartan king Menelaus, Trojan prince Paris fall for Menelaus' wife and Helen and take her back to Troy. Then Menelaus' brother King Agamemnon, having already defeated every army in Greece, uses his brother Pheres as a pretext to declare war against the Troy, and the last kingdom preventing his control over the Aegean Sea. So, how the Greek army fight with the Trojans, and how the Trojan defeated defense from the Greek army. So all these things are elaborate explain in this story, in this epic. And nobody is give up. Nobody is give up with their fightings. Every day they are coming, fighting, and going back. So every morning, Greek people came out with their boats, ships, and tents and started fighting. And the Trojan came out with their gate from their gate and started fighting. But nobody is defeated by anyone, so that the fighting is going on till 10 years. So this is what the story tell about in the part 1. So after that we will see the concluding part of this story in the next part. I hope all of you have understood this story, and I'll give you the hard words. There are very few hard words in the lesson, but I'll give you. Thank you, students. Thank you very much.